So I can tell when something's been photoshopped, and a lot of it's been photoshopped. And these are two guys who are set up to fail, to push for the anti-gun agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not necessarily, totally pro-gun. I think a lot of people go off on the gun issue, but I'm in favor of people defending themselves. Okay? And if you have an unarmed population, you are so ripe for a takeover.
You're asking for it.
Exactly. So when I see Blackwater operatives at the site with backpacks that are identical to the one that was exploded, which are different from the one that the Sarnoff brother ever wore.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. And I see their logo on their cap, which has like a Punisher type skull on it, and has an actual logo which says violence does solve problems. Okay, what does that say? That says these guys are totally subscribed to the Machiavellian ideology. And Machiavelli's The Prince, published about 300 years ago, can be summed up in a single phrase. The end justifies the means. Sir, yes, sir, we got to blow up some people. We got to cull the herd to protect the herd. Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, it just two things. One, it boggles my mind. If you guys are so smart and can orchestrate these events, cover your tracks. Make it plausible.
Totally.
I don't understand how they don't do that. I mean, I'm glad they don't. We can expose the truth more easily because they're sloppy, and they just count on the fact that most Americans are stupid and Westerners, and we're not going to observe. And they're right. Most of them aren't going to look beyond it, so they can be.
That's right. And when the FBI said, send us your digital photographs of the tragedy and we'll establish a public database, I said, oh, goody, because I was downloading all kinds of images and I was doing an analysis, and about 2 or 3 days later, I noticed, and I just rolled out laughing on the floor when the FBI guy says, don't look at any images that we don't approve of on our database. And I said, you just lost it, buddy.
Yeah, you're out of your mind.
Exactly.
You reached too far. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and now I want to be very clear. I'm not suggesting that there were amputee actors on the scene and the whole thing is fake. I'm not suggesting that. Okay, I am suggesting that a real bomb went off and real wounds were suffered and loss of life incurred. Now, but I also don't believe that the Sarnoff brothers had anything to do with it.
Right.
Okay, let's just go to the last three of these techniques for controlling the news, in addition to what we've already just discussed, which is digital editing and digital manipulation. And summarize our talk tonight with this. Let's see. Inject false evidence. And I'm laughing because allegedly on 9/11, you had a guy sitting in a plane seat, or at least standing with a box cutter over people who were sitting in plane seats, who had a paper passport in his pocket. And as the jet hit the Twin Towers and basically shattered into a million pieces and got literally pulverized and exploded in a ball of fire, going through aluminum aircraft alloy and steel reinforced concrete and through a fireball, it lands 80 stories below amongst the thousands of tons of debris in identifiable, legible condition. Now, if that isn't an example of planting false evidence, I don't know what is. Because allegedly a paper passport survives, but a titanium alloy black box does not. Number 21 for techniques of controlling news and information. Call a grand jury, as in the 9/11 Commission. Now, this is very important because I don't believe that all members of the 9/11 Commission were on the inside. I believe some of them were. When Thomas Keane comes out with a book after being the co-chair of the 9/11 Commission called, I believe, Without Precedent, and he writes an entire book saying we were stonewalled at every point. We couldn't come up with any answers to questions because we couldn't even ask the questions. What do you think the 9/11 Commission is? Is it thorough or is it controlled?
Well, it wasn't. It was only FEMA and CIA that were allowed to investigate, wasn't it?
I'm not sure about that, but if you're the co-chair of a commission, you would think that you would go through every source short of violating national security. And even you would be told obviously confidential things and you would filter them according to national security, but you would still ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when someone like Philip Zelikow, who is also on the 9/11 Commission, who is an arch-Zionist, who is in league with Condoleezza Rice, and Condoleezza Rice is a member of the executive of Unical, along with Hamid Karzai, you start to make connections there, you know? It's just, you can see who the players are and who the players aren't. And one of the greatest ways to control information is by setting up a commission. So everything travels to that commission. And you wouldn't have had a commission in the first place if the Jersey girls, quote unquote, who are three widows of the 9/11 victims, didn't demand a commission in the first place. I mean, think about this. You wouldn't have had an inquiry as to the greatest civilian disaster and military intelligence failure in all of American history. We're just supposed to let that pass, but we need to have a grand inquiry about Bill Clinton's sex life. So it's quite sad. And when the Jersey girls asked the original chair of the 9/11 Commission, who just happened to be, the evil man incarnate, Henry Kissinger, Mr. Kissinger, did you ever have a member of the Bin Laden family as one of the clients in your law firm? Well, he just pretty well dropped his teacup. And that was the end of his role in the 9/11 Commission. Okay, and 22 out of 25, manufacture a new truth. And this is so evident in the whole man-made global warming issue. And the whole point of the man-made global warming issue is to act as another tax. And that's all I want to say on that subject because it's so obvious by now. And 23, create bigger distractions. Instead of discussing Obamacare, let's discuss or bring up another controversial topic like gay rights and fixate on that so no one talks about the advance of Obamacare. Okay, and finally, silence critics. In other words, just kill them. Now, if you've ever seen the video of Michael Hastings and the crash of his Mercedes, I mean, flying through an intersection at 200 miles per hour. I mean, there's no way that anyone can maintain control of that vehicle in that area at that speed. And when two researchers showed how to hack a make and model of the same car that Michael Hastings had, after the government denied that you could possibly hack, Michael Hastings' car, well, that pretty well settles it for me.
Yeah.
Especially when Michael Hastings tweets his friend at Breitbart, I think, who was another journalist that got whacked. I'm on the biggest story of my life, quote unquote. I better lay low for now, quote unquote. You know, it gets just a little bit suspicious. And the day before Andrew Breitbart was killed, he said on video, "I'm on the biggest story of my life. This will take down the presidency," quote unquote. And apparently Andrew Breitbart dies of some viral disease, the name of which escapes me by now. But that isn't suspicious enough because the coroner conducting the autopsy of Andrew Breitbart also dies of the same viral disease.
Oh, well, he caught it.
Oh, of course, because the guy's totally sloppy, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can laugh at it, but we can also say, you know, we don't understand the big picture, but there's a lot of evil going on. And the highlight of the white paper by Michael Aquino, which was the background or backbone to our discussion tonight, should let everybody know that there are serious occult players involved, and they are not playing around. And a lot of your family and friends and your fellow church members won't ever subscribe to that notion because it makes them too uncomfortable. But there are people out there who aren't playing, and we need to be aware of it.
Oh, yeah. You were talking in your interview to Cheryl Edwards.
Yes.
A little bit about like who owns the networks and down to the wires and everything. And I was just hoping maybe you could talk just a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because about 20 to 25 years ago, there were 88 media companies in the United States. There are now 6.
That's pretty much like what happened with the record industry too.
That is correct. But it gets better.
How does that not qualify as monopoly?
It's actually an oligopoly, a 6-fingered hand, which basically appears to be independent, but like the human hand is actually quite codependent.
Right.
Okay. Those 6 media companies get all their information from 2 news services, Associated Press and Reuters. But it gets better. Reuters owns Associated Press.
Wow.
But it gets better. The Rothschilds own Reuters. So in reality, there is only one news source. And the Rothschilds rarely are on the scene. And when they are on the scene, they deliver some very interesting messages. And the last message that Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, I mean, you can't make that name up, Evelyn, you know, with an E, Evelyn de Rothschild, said on NBC was, on the other hand, you better hang on to your gold bars in the time of crisis. And as a footnote, listeners out there should know that I had a tough decision to make in addition to all the distractions that I've been facing over the past month. I sold all of my silver, every last ounce, and I paid off my mortgage because I knew that in spite of Indian demand for gold and silver going up by 225% over the past decade, and in spite of Chinese demand for gold and silver increasing by over 350% over the past decade, and shortages of gold and silver at the wholesale level starting to occur, prices have gone down by 70%. That reeks of manipulation. There's no other way for it. And the former chair of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, Bart Chilton, admits that there's manipulation, but he just can't do anything about it.